Okay, the talk about this is going to be about the D-Day invasion. I'm going to cover it from a little bit different angle from other times that I've done it. Let's go over a little bit of the day of the D-Day invasion. So, Rommel was the head of all the defenses for the Germans, and they kind of split their defenses. It was commonly thought that there would either have been an attack at Normandy where it was, or that it would be at the Pas du Calais, which is the narrow part of the channel right here. That's the narrowest part of the channel, and Normandy, the beaches of Normandy are the farthest far away. Now, they had General Patton. They did a whole lot of deception there, and he even had blown up tanks that blew up. See this? This looks like a Sherman tank. It's actually inflatable, and this is the soldiers carrying it basically in a large duffel bag. But they had 30 or 40 of these laying around, and they would move them around, and they would move he had several hundred troops that he would change their, he had all kinds of battle flags made up for non-existent regiments, and he would have the soldiers march in different, they would do, in other words, they would do loops, and then they would rotate the first and second squad so at least they looked different. And it would look like that there were thousands of extra troops when he actually only had hundreds. And with the different regimental battle flags, he looked like, because it was commonly thought he was the greatest general we had, battle-wise, and it was commonly thought that he would be the leader of the invasion. So the Germans, Rommel had all kinds of interesting traps and mines all along the beach. Now, when you're attacking something like this, there was a storm brewing, and the Germans only had weather. So this is the map of England. So they had info up until about Scapa Flow by Norway. And then there was this giant storm front, and the information that Rommel had was there was this storm, there was no breaks in it, and it was going to last for a total of 8 to 10 days. And so he knew if it lasted 8 to 10 days that they couldn't land, because you have to have a certain high tide so you can get over the anti-tank barriers to have the most success. So he went to his wife's birthday party in Bavaria. Well, when he left, because he just said, well, the invasion's not going to be till next month. And so he said, I'm going to go to my wife's birthday tomorrow, so I'm going to go to see her. Everything should be fine till then. What he didn't know is the Allies had a weather station. It was called in Thule. It was green. It was called the Thule weather station. It was actually in Greenland. And they knew there was a 3-day break in the weather, that it was going to be clear for 3 days, and then the storm will resume for another 7. So they knew they had a 3-day window to land, and here were the beaches. This is about the biggest map you're ever going to see of this. So here's Utah, Omaha. Those were the ones that were the U.S. did, and then Gold, Juno, and Sword were the British and the Commonwealth attacked those. Well, wouldn't you know it, the best defenses were on Utah and Omaha. And I'm going to pause it here so you can get on this map. This is the advances for about a month and a week. And so there you go. And I've got all kinds of paraphernalia here before I launch into the main part. Here's a captured German SS officer's papers. It's pretty cool here. So here's the stamps of everywhere he's been. Here's a Signal Corps operator's journal. Got all kinds of neat stuff in it. And he's at the beach, and he's talking about Omaha Beach here. I got a safe conduct pass This is just a piece of paper that was in the news that I got, and somebody cut it out for some reason. This is the operation. This was not supposed to be taken into battle. This was actually a top secret document at the time. It was an order of battle. Here's a GI's little diary here. Here's a first aid pamphlet that they put in everybody's pack, so they have some idea. Here's another thing off another piece of paper. Here's some French money. I guess I better turn this sideways. So here's the squadron list of, they normally call it a list of the hours. And here's a night map of where they did the parachute landings. So I wanted to cover that before I get into the meat of stuff. I've got all kinds of German World War II paraphernalia. By the way, this is a reproduction of a German knife my friend who passed away, Jack, gave to me. It's pretty cool. Like I said, this is a reproduction. Let me pull it out here. So they would, this is an actual model, and they would carve in, they had, you know, blood and iron. This one has blood and honor, Blut und Eier, carved into it. Anyway, my friend Jack, who passed away, gave that to me as a gift. So I thought I'd put it in there. So anyway, let's go back to here. So anyway, Eisenhower's main choice after the invasion was laid down was he was the go or no go. So he made the decision to go. Let's go over the ramifications of what that did. Well, there was a German rapid reaction Panzer division that was right about here, and it was supposed to reinforce wherever the invasion came from. It was supposed to repel them and throw them back to the sea, and it probably would have, because remember, they had 3 days to secure the beach, and then they had to pause, and it took them another 7 or 8 days before they got reinforcements. So if this rapid reaction force would have done as planned, they might have pushed them back in the sea, and I'll talk about the ramifications of that if it actually had happened. But remember, Rommel had said, well, there's not going to be any invasion until next month because of the tides, so I'm going to go see my wife. Well, they didn't like they had cell phones back then, so he was unavailable for the trip to Bavaria. We couldn't get a hold of him when the invasion happened. And they tried to get a hold of this leader of this Panzer division, this rapid reaction Panzer division, wouldn't move. Remember, they also had a fake invasion here with fake paratroopers. They had dummies that came down. They actually did a fake invasion with hundreds and hundreds of dummies that landed first before D-Day to get them to try to, you know, like a feint, like a boxer feints, and get you to react to the feint. And this Army colonel said, well, if I don't get orders from Hitler or Rommel, I'm not going to move. I'm just going to stay where I'm at because I don't want to make a mistake, because it looks like there's 2 places. Well, he bought the feint, or it confused him enough where he didn't react. Well, why couldn't they get a hold of Hitler? Hitler at the time was under the original Dr. Feelgood, and the Japanese had discovered crystal methamphetamine. They didn't really do anything with it, but you know, the Germans were their allies, and somehow they shared shared this with them. Well, the Germans started getting all the soldiers they just started handing them out like candy. And if you'll remember, their blitzkrieg tactics were built mainly upon not having a stalemate like in World War I, but because everybody was high on meth, it made the blitzkrieg twice as effective. Well, what Hitler was doing, this doctor would jack him up on it, and it was a concoction of methamphetamine, B12, baboon gland extract, and a few other things, and he would be just, you know, hitting on all cylinders for about 18 hours, and then he would pass out and crash just like anybody would. Remember, Hitler wasn't that young at the time. And so they couldn't wake him up to ask him, should we put this tank division to Normandy? So because of that, the invasion actually worked. Now, there were several problems with the D-Day invasion. One of the things they did, they loaded them down with too much equipment. And a lot of them drowned just from too much equipment. Another thing they did, they let them eat whatever they wanted to before the invasion. So most of them ate this gigantic, like a Thanksgiving Day size meal, and they actually got sick on it. And plus, a lot of them had never been through the choppy waters, because remember, the storm, even though the storm was having a break, the waters were real choppy, and most of them were seasick, throwing up everywhere. So they killed a lot of people just by overfeeding them and giving them too much equipment. They drowned. There's a bunch of them drowned just because of that. Like I said, if that rapid reaction force had hit there, they probably would have stopped the invasion and thrown them out to the sea. What would have that led to? Well, that would have led to several things. They probably would have gotten... The Germans had a flying wing concept plane called the Horten, and you may have seen it in a version of it in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, with the thing they load the Ark of the Covenant on. It looked like a flying wing, but this was a Horten, and it was going to be jet propelled, and they were going to put an atom bomb on it. Now, it wasn't going to be... They weren't advanced enough to get the atom bomb that would have exploded with the big energy conversion, but it would have been a dirty atom bomb. And where would they have done that? They would have dropped the dirty atom on New York City, because that's where all our troops went through. Remember, they all went through Grand Central Station, and you would have made New York uninhabitable with a dirty bomb. Now, they captured that Horten. They had several of these, and they captured one of the Hortens, and it was on display at the Smithsonian. And a couple of guys from the Skunk Works, you can look that up, found it and decided, hey, this thing would probably be good for evading radar. So that's where we got our stealth technology, was the basically shape of the Horten. And you can look it up, the Horten Ray. But anyway, it was supposed to go there on a one-way trip, drop the bomb, and then the guys were going to parachute out and then get picked up by a submarine and taken back. And that was the plan. Yeah, he also had a ricin bomb that they were planning on dropping. And they had several jet plane designs, some real weird ones that were about 5 months away, that might have changed things. And if you know, when you take a lot of meth, you're all hunky-dory for a while, but then you hit a wall, and they hit a wall, and Hitler hit a wall. And the meth let them advance a lot, but it also cost them in the end. Thank you, I'm out.